All right, ladies and gentlemen, our program is going to begin. I always think it's a good sign at the beginning of an event when everybody's talking and having a great time. I feel like we're at the start of a wonderful family reunion. So let's begin. Good afternoon, everyone. I think first of all, we have to just acknowledge the obvious. Doesn't it feel good to be back together again? I think so. You know, we've been through a lot since March of 2020. Really appreciate all of you being here in the room and those of you at home watching on Zoom. My name is Mark Wright. I use the pronouns he, him. This is my 5th year of hosting the Evergreen Treatment Services Roots of Recovery fundraiser. Such an honor to be with all of you here today to support this amazing organization. We have been through a lot, and I know some of you have been through a lot more than some of the rest of us. So if that's you, our hearts are with you if the pandemic has been really tough and difficult on you and your family. This year, well, I think I should probably crack a joke first. Let's see if I can remember it. I almost, I didn't really recognize many of you because you're not in your pajamas. Boy, that was a good one, wasn't it? Okay, let's get back to the script. So thank you for the courtesy laugh. This year, we are giving the whole hybrid model a try because that's kind of how the world is post-pandemic, right? So we have had so many Zoom meetings, right? Who's sick of Zoom meetings, yeah? I've been working on my Zoom face, by the way, because I noticed that in a lot of my Zoom meetings, I was thinking about something else and I was just like, so I trained myself to have an interested Zoom face, and I encourage all of you to do that. So those of you at home, try that out. The good thing about Zoom, though, I'm not going to disparage Zoom because it allows a lot of people at home right now who are watching, about 100 people on our Zoom call. Let's put them up on the screens if we can. Those of you who are at home, wave. Look at that. What a good-looking bunch. And see if their picture isn't up. They're either in their pajamas or they're eating, which is good. Welcome, Zoom folks. Okay, let's change it around so that everybody on Zoom can now see everybody in the room here at Block 41. If you've not been to Block 41 before, this is an awesome venue. So let's turn the cameras around if we can and show them. Everybody wave. They can see us now on the Zoom call at home. Okay, now that we have the greetings out of the way. You know, this year's theme of our fundraiser is meeting people where they are. And it really couldn't be more fitting given where we are right now. And I just want to say something just personally about addiction. My family has dealt with addiction for a long time. At my father's funeral in 2011, a woman came up and gave me this coin. It was my dad's 37-year coin in AA. He was too sick from cancer to get the coin. And I saw that as a sign because I'd been struggling with drinking and I got sober 7 years ago. And, and I thought about today's event, and I've never ever said that publicly. You know, I've been on TV for 35 years. And I think it's time. You know, I really respect people who talk about their sobriety because that's who I reached out to when I needed help. So I'm just going to say, if you're asking yourself the question, am I drinking too much? I'm going to tell you the answer is yes, and get some help. Give me a call, give a friend a call. But I just wanted to say that because I think it's time as a society that we get this out of the darkness, out of the shadows. And addiction doesn't care. Yeah. Addiction really doesn't care who you are. It really doesn't. But the good news is all of you here today and all of you at home are part of the solution, and you can feel good about that. All right. So we've got an action-packed program. You're going to enjoy this program today. You're going to hear from ETS leadership about the work that they're doing. You're going to hear from our incredible keynote speaker, Dr. Kema Joy Taylor. She's going to share really some big picture trends that are happening in healthcare and how a harm reduction approach is essential to providing quality care, especially to vulnerable members of our community. People facing addiction, serious mental health challenges, many of whom are unhoused. You see them every day here in Seattle. Many are experiencing the revolving door of the criminal legal system when what they really need is care, what they need is help and compassion. Some of you know that REACH is an ETS program that sends out a comprehensive team into the community to reach those who are most vulnerable. We have a short film in a little bit to show you the highlights of that work that REACH is doing in South King County, where there were previously no services available to folks living deep in a green belt, kind of between Kent and Renton. We're going to wrap up the day with some familiar faces for those of you who've attended in previous years. Hayden Wartiz, one of my favorite people, has a call to action so that we can all help support ETS and its incredible mission with your financial contributions. If no one told you this is a fundraiser, my mom and I went to a financial services meeting when I was a kid. We drove from Ferndale by the Canadian border all the way down to SeaTac to the Red Lion. And about a half hour in, I looked at my mom. I'm 10. I'm like, is this an Amway meeting? And she said, I think so, we're leaving. So don't leave. This is a fundraiser. I just want to say, though, on a serious note, I'm so glad that ETS exists. The staff are so needed. If you're a member of the ETS staff, I'd like you to just stand up right now and get some love, because you guys are doing the hard work of this amazing organization. Yeah. Thank you for the work that you all do. I think the one I've worked for decades with nonprofits, and I've helped dozens and dozens of nonprofits. Every single nonprofit that I've helped, I have such great admiration for the leadership and the people who work for the nonprofit, because nobody goes into it for the money. It's always a challenge. It's always hard, but they do it because they care. And I'd like to introduce ETS CEO Steve Woolworth, who joined the organization in January of 2020, right, Steve? Right before. Can you imagine taking the biggest job of your life right when everybody's about to go on their pajamas on Zoom? That's what Steve did in January of 2020. So I'd like to officially welcome you in person, Steve, to the stage. Steve Woolworth, CEO of ETS.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you. All right, Mark is right. This moment is long overdue, and we are so thankful that all of you could be with us here in this room today, as well as joining us from remote locations. Before I get started, I want to begin by acknowledging that the land we're on in Western Washington is part of the ancestral home of the Coast Salish people. We thank the original caretakers of this beautiful land who persist to this day, and we pledge to move forward in ways that honor native land and respect tribal sovereignty. I'd also like us to take a moment of silence to honor everyone we have lost to drug overdose, to COVID, and to the many other hardships we've endured during these uniquely challenging times. Thank you. Organizations like ETS could not do this work were it not for the support of elected officials, and I'd like to celebrate all of you in the room who play an instrumental role in this work. If you are able, please stand so that we can see you, and let's hold our applause till the end. But beginning with State Representative Noel Frame from the 36th District. Noel, thank you. King County Council Member Joe McDermott. All right, go ahead and applause. All right, sorry. Seattle City Council Member Sarah Nelson. Seattle City Council Member Lisa Herbold. Seattle City Council Member Andrew Lewis. Montlake Terrace City Council Member Dr. Steve Woodard. We also could not do this work without the partnership and collaboration of government agency leaders, and we have several in the room today who deserve special mention. Starting with the Chief of Staff of the King County Prosecutor's Office, Lisa Mannion. Seattle Police Department Assistant Chief Eric Greening. Seattle Deputy City Attorney Scott Lindsay. And the Chief of the Criminal Division of the Seattle City Attorney's Office, Natalie Walton Anderson. Did I leave out any elected officials? Whew. All right, thank you again to all our elected officials and public agency leaders. I also want to take a moment to acknowledge and thank the Evergreen Treatment Services Board of Directors. If I could ask the members of the board who are with us today to please stand. As representatives of our community, thank you for volunteering your time and for guiding us as we strive to deliver on our mission to transform the lives of individuals and their communities through innovative and effective addiction and social services. Now to our sponsors. We have 35 business partners who have joined us this year to support this event. We are truly moved by this level of commitment to our mission. And on behalf of the board of directors and the more than 300 staff members, thank you for your support. I'd like to specifically acknowledge our partners at Perkins Coie, who are leading off as advocate sponsors this year at the $10,000 level. David and Kara, thank you. We appreciate you. And of course, a special shout out and thank you to all our table captains who are the reason many of you are either here or watching from remote locations. Table captains, please give us a wave. Right. I would also like to acknowledge our former executive director of Evergreen Treatment Services, Molly Carney. Molly, thank you for your continued support. And second, I think walking into the room now is our original founder and first executive director, Tom Odell. Prior to becoming Evergreen Treatment Services in 1980, we operated under our original name, Central Breakthrough Maintenance Program, which Tom helped establish in the Central District in 1973 in the space of the then bankrupt Seattle Treatment Center. Tom served as our first executive director until 1978. Tom, thank you for getting us started. And we are meeting for the first time, and it's great to have this intimate, private moment to get acquainted with each other. And last but not least, I want to acknowledge all the ETS staff in the room and viewing from remote locations. You are simply the best. Thank you for what you do every day. So before I introduce our keynote speaker, I want to say a few words about this year's theme, meeting people where they are. Yes, it's an often repeated slogan among harm reductionists to meet people where they are. And it is what we strive to do in our two service divisions, Reach and Clinic Services, who together served nearly 8,000 people last year from Olympia to North Seattle. Meeting people where they are, of course, has different levels of meeting. One is literal. As an organization, we will literally go to meet you where you are, be it in a courtroom, a jail, a street corner or encampment, emergency room or clinic, RV or motel. Another is figurative. It means we will walk alongside you, not push or pull, control or coerce, judge or shame you, but walk alongside and partner with you to understand who you are, what you need, and where you want to go. Meeting people where they are starts at the roots of recovery work, and it runs deep in the DNA of our organization, which is what brings us here today in collective recognition that the roots of recovery begin with the simple recognition of our basic humanness from which the bonds of trust begin to form. This harm reduction philosophy is foundational, and it extends across our organization as we strive to improve the health and wellness of our communities. From the provision of basic needs to unsheltered folk through the work of our street outreach team, the largest in King County, to the dispensing of medication for opioid use disorder, coupled with counseling and support services that we have been delivering for 49 years in our clinics. Every day, we constitute a key part of our community's response to the multiple overlapping and intertwined public health crises that threaten to erode the connective moral tissue of our community. Record-setting fatal drug overdoses, chronic mass homelessness, and institutionalized racism that continues to produce and reproduce grossly disparate outcomes across our healthcare, homeless, and criminal legal systems, to name but a few. And this brings me to our keynote speaker. I won't repeat Dr. Taylor's impressive background detailed in the event pamphlet. but I do want to set the stage for why her voice is one we need to hear and listen carefully to. We continue to be deeply anchored in this precarious situation. Clearly, there are no immediate answers, but we should not let complexity inhibit our capacity to care. We should also be concerned about how some in our community and elsewhere remain seriously misinformed about what is happening at the level where lives are lived. Risk factors for homelessness, like substance use disorders and mental illness, have been confused as the causes of homelessness. They are not. Homelessness, as a recent book title proclaims, is a housing problem, and we need more housing. A chronically underfunded, understaffed, and fragmented behavioral health system should not lead us to punish folks expressing their behavioral health condition. On-the-ground efforts to support drug user health should not be dismissed nor discounted because they are not tied to the false promise of mandatory treatment. And not having enough places to bring folks inside should lead all of us to ask why we continue to move folks around outside, even as studies clearly show it is both more harmful and more costly to do so. It is challenging. It is challenging for sure for those who show up every day to do this work amidst a backdrop of voices disconnected from the very real human vulnerabilities experienced and expressed at the level where lives are lived. And so this, my friends, is why we need to hear from voices of clarity that help us understand why public health and public safety are not separate conversations or competing policy priorities. Now, more than ever before, we need to lean in and listen to voices that can get us focused, laser focused on how and where we should invest our community resources, on not just the kinds of services we need more of, but also the manner in which those services should be carried out in partnership with those on the receiving end. This is how we can, together, start bending the long moral arc of the universe back towards justice. And this is why I'm excited to introduce our keynote speaker, who has traveled all the way from our nation's capital to be with us today. Please give a warm welcome to Dr. Kema Joy Taylor.
Wow, that was a great introduction. I hope I live up to it. Really, I want to thank everyone for having me here today. And I was going to start my talk in a different way, but I actually want to take a minute because I want to diverge from that point and really move back to the idea of roots of recovery. And roots are usually these complex sets of structures that are underground that feed and nourish plants. And I really want to take this moment to think about the roots. My interactions with the ETS staff made me really certain that I needed to start with the roots of policy. The roots needed to change the way the world moves from a punitive to wellness model for people who use drugs. People are those roots. People like the ones who are working at ETS are the roots who bring structure and nourishment to individual systems, structures that are needed to create positive and equitable change. They're not monolithic, very diverse, struggling between work-life balance, questioning, but anchored by caring, kindness, and love. And that nourishes a different vision for the world. So I really want to state how impressed I am with those roots, give pause to honor and thank them for talking to me and sharing from their heart for the heart and care they give to people each day. And you'll know I'm struggling because I talk really fast. I'm really trying to slow down. If I start talking too fast, raise your hand. So to start my actual speech though, when you desire change, you have to have a goal. And I want to give you guys the goal that I'm thinking about. I feel the goal has to be big enough to affect said change. And if you seek equity, well, that has to be embedded in the goal as well. Almost all goals require incremental steps, as much as that pains me. But what you ultimately achieve is as broad or as narrow as the goal that you define with that equity embedded. And I'm going to keep embedding that. So the goal that frames this talk in my mind is a goal of equitable access to and outcomes from a culturally and linguistically effective, non-punitive, community-based, integrated physical and behavioral health and social services so people are well as they define wellness for themselves. This goal is achieving with and by people who change individual lives and systems. To achieve this goal really requires looking at our past, our present, and future. How did we, do we, and will we treat people, and particularly people who use drugs? To frame the talk for me, I'll let you know I've had a lot of different jobs and a lot of different vantage points and perspectives on how to promote equitable access to and outcomes from health and other systems for people who use drugs. I also should note that one of those jobs is program officer at Open Society Foundation, in which I was an early program officer at the initiation of the LEAD project. And so I'd come out to Seattle then and had met ETS then, which is why I'm so honored and excited to be invited back. So I'm going to start with that history idea, and I'm going to start with the idea of we're in Roots of Recovery. And since this is a Roots of Recovery event, I originally planned to Google, keep moving from the mic, I originally planned to Google CMS's definition of recovery and use that as a basis for my speech. But when I was Googling, I actually found something that I thought was much better for the purposes of the talk I want to give today. And the Google definition was the action or process of regaining possession or control of something stolen and lost. So this talk is going to be about how and why systems must change and recover to regain possession of something stolen or lost, or I would say in this case, never had. And by this, I mean the health and social response to drug use that emphasizes wellness of individuals, communities, and families. We lost the central idea, we gave away the central idea that people who use drugs, like all of us, deserve a response that is used to enhance wellness. So to talk about system change, you have to admit and reckon with the history. And I know that all of you, well, all of you, most of you, and if you don't, I can give you a history lesson afterwards, but know about drug policy history and its racist background. You know about the San Francisco opium dens and how drug policy was really used to exclude and harm and pull out of the labor market Chinese immigrants. Same thing around marijuana regulation, use, harm, exclude Mexican immigrants from the population and labor markets. War on drugs, excluding Black and other and Latinx folks from punish them and put them in a criminal legal system. Really not just the criminal legal system though, created a punitive infrastructure in child welfare, education, employment, all of these systems that punished and took away the rights and the well-being of people who use drugs. And it's always this thing, and I find it interesting, we always say, is culturally linguistically effective treatment better than a criminal legal system? Yeah, because this is a health and social concern. And so health and social issues are actually improved by health and social responses. I do research and have research that says, is treatment better than prison? Yeah, if you're not offering anything in prison, why are we funding that research? Yes, you are going to get better outcomes if you actually provide something that serves people. So knowing all this time that addiction is a health concern, and to be clear, we've known that since Benjamin Rush, the slave-owning signer of the Declaration of Independence, who was also a doctor, noted that addiction was a chronic health concern. We've known this, and we still stole wellness and denied a health response and forcibly used punitive responses and racist tropes to harm people who use drugs. So you know the history of drug policy. And again, if you don't, I'll be here, we can talk. And you know its racist tendencies, and you know the disparate outcomes that it produces. But of the drug policies and the systems it produces, and as you guys know, when you create LEAD, there are ways to think through changing that criminal legal response and turning it into more of a health and well-being response. But I would argue that does not really happen as effectively as we may hope if we don't include the healthcare system. So this conversation is going to take us to the healthcare system and its failures. And it's really, and I say that in a sense of, I am a product of, I'm a pediatrician, I'm a product of, I am a piece of, and I'm a consumer of this healthcare system. And I'm tired of not demanding and having equitable outcomes for all, including those who use drugs. So let's talk about the history of the healthcare system. We know about the racist history of the drug policy system, the healthcare system. I would argue most of us realize when people came over and discovered America, that there was not a health and wellness approach to how we interacted with indigenous populations. So we can say from the institution of our healthcare frame, that was not our target. If we can't agree with that, again, we can have some conversations, willing to talk. But add into that, right, then we have slavery, and humans were truly disposable. Once you were no longer able to bring people over from West Africa, there was a little more healthcare because you had to keep your property alive. And particularly for pregnant and parenting women, maybe a little more healthcare, but it was decided not by you and not in partnership with you. It was in partnership with the slave owner, right? So that, I think we can argue that did not center health and wellness. And then we look back and we look at, okay, so we had segregated care for populations, but that segregated care was even harmed. One, either practices of indigenous populations or people from Africa were ripped asunder as we look at midwifery. There are many ways that people provided and had really positive outcomes for Black and indigenous women by providing midwifery, and this was ripped asunder by legislation, both federal and local, and by our public health infrastructure. So we took away access to health and wellness. We hindered the entry of professionals who could serve those populations because the white systems did not want to serve them, but we didn't even create and sustain professional organizations for the populations of color that sought to serve them. And then there was the Flexner Report, which was a whole, which really you should read up on because it ruined all of your healthcare. But it really also sought to then close even more of those schools for people of color. And so then you look at drug policy and you say, well, like I said, addiction is a known health concern since Benjamin Rush, and there's many other people who have stated that. And we're going to remove drug policy from the criminal legal sphere, and we're going to put it into the healthcare sphere. And that should be a little concerning because the healthcare sphere didn't take care for people. It didn't offer wellness. It didn't offer holistic services for people who use drugs. It, in some ways, disincentivized. Dear Anslinger, who famous for drug policy, also really affected the healthcare provision for people who use drugs. When docs who were prescribing morphine and Mas o menos, medication for opioid use disorder fashion, were targeted, jailed, so disrupted that. But also the healthcare providers were brought up in the same racist drug policy system as everyone else. And so abdicated responsibility, felt that punishment was fine, and it was put over there. And if you put it over there, guess what? You're not teaching it within healthcare systems. You're not teaching how to provide equitable, culture-linguistically effective services for people who use drugs. And so even as the society moved to a public health or chronic disease-based approach, and I have some hesitation saying that because I think we talk about it a lot, but we haven't actually done it. But even as we do that, we don't fund in that way, and we have expectations that are difficult to meet because systems didn't serve people who use drugs. They don't know how to. You have to teach them how to provide services that are going to achieve wellness. Systems, as I said, were made up of people from the general public who had animosity towards people who use drugs. And systems were racist. I told you that history. This is not a system that embraces people, right? It's not a system that was made to make sure that people of any type really have equitable outcomes, as we see by the statistics every day, from the maternal child health outcomes to heart disease. But it also truthfully was not centered to create wellness outcomes for people who use drugs, for people who are homeless, for people who have physical and other mental health concerns. So rethinking how we're going to do this really requires taking a deep look at these other systems and centering drug user well-being in these other systems by meeting people where they are, but by meeting people where society chose to cast them. And by this, I mean, there's places that they're always allowed, jails and emergency departments. We can admit that if we were there, that would achieve wellness. And places from which rules kept them out, be that employment, education, physical, mental health, and even our basic substance use services, which often were not evidence informed, often were very punitive, and often linked to outcomes that could harm as opposed to help. So you have providers and communities who said, we need to create a place to decrease the harms of drug use, because we admit there can be harms of drug use and harms of systems that toward drug users. And this is where programs like ETS sit and continue to struggle. And even as the opioid crisis, and it's blatantly, I would say, different response based on the people who were deemed to have the opioid use disorders, and I say deemed to have because we all know that's not true. It changed only because of the face of the user, but the systems in place didn't achieve the outcomes that this public health system said it wanted to achieve, because we created systems from their inception that were harmful and weren't centered in creating care. And particularly for BIPOC populations and LGBTQ+ populations. And so it's this reason that groups like ETS are so important, because they connect all of these systems and engage with people and listen to patients and meet them where they are and build trust to provide culturally and linguistically effective outreach and engagement services, and then do their best to link folks to these other systems that have often failed them to achieve wellness, not just harm reduction. And I'm a deep believer in harm reduction, and harm reduction is covered in every other aspect of chronic diseases, but not just harm reduction, so people can be well and survive some days and thrive other days, but be here and be loved. So groups like EPS, though, they can't do it alone, and they shouldn't do it alone. It requires repeatable, reliable funding on par with services provided for other chronic diseases. And I want to be really clear here, as I rail on the healthcare system, this does not mean we're like, well, let's just keep people in those punitive systems till the healthcare system gets its act together. No. Again, criminal legal system, we can talk about it, harmful outcomes. Community-based health well-being is not going to happen in a system that doesn't center that. But what it means is increasing the circle of work and the scale of work that's currently done by communities led formed by people who are impacted by drug use, who had to save themselves while all these other systems were failing. It's supporting groups like ETS that have been in this space and increasing the circle of partners and holding one another accountable. So now I'm going to stop lecturing you, and I'm going to talk about some concrete things that I think we need to do as it relates to the healthcare system, which I guess is still a little bit of lecture. But anyways, so healthcare system partnerships, we have to start talking about the healthcare system. The public health system is not the same as the healthcare system. Healthcare system serves to provide individual services. Public health is really about population services. But there is an opening now with that healthcare system that, as I told you, didn't learn how to take care of people who use drugs, but now they're being required to. There's movement afoot in the healthcare system that looks at outcome-based care. And others call it value-based care. I call it outcome-based care because I think it's really important to center that we're talking about outcomes, not saving money, but same thing. Maso Menos, if you have the right heart and if you really want equitable outcomes. And this is a space where people are talking about outcomes-based care. Guess what? You won't achieve positive outcomes if you don't actually serve people who use drugs. And as I said before, I'm not just talking about substance use services. People who use drugs have been kept out of physical health services, mental health services, all other services that people need to survive and thrive. And they get to choose which services they want, but when you're kept out of all of them, you don't get to choose, right? And so really working to create contracted partnerships, and this is where many public officials, Medicaid officials, and others need to think about, what do those contracts look like? Not to reinvent the wheel, and this is really important, but really to achieve equity. What groups like ETS and other groups are already on the ground who have done this well and effectively? What can they teach us about creating those structures that are necessary to achieve the outcomes that need to happen? How can we partner and pay them to do this connection in these services so that we can achieve the outcomes we want to see? And the reason they need to do this now is because these health insurers and health providers will only be paid if they achieve these outcomes. So they need to work in partnership, and there's a slow waking up call, but that is the only way that it's going to happen. So there's this opportunity and a need to partner with healthcare systems and healthcare advocates to make sure that becomes a reality, and that reality is equitable for all, and that systems are held accountable for these realities, which gets me to accountability, which is one of the topics I really love to talk about. And it really requires all of us to make sure these systems are continuing to achieve the outcomes that they say they want to. I think there's a couple frames that need to happen for accountability. We have to rediscuss what outcome measures are. The outcome measures we have now are not effective for achieving wellness. Abstinence, recidivism, moving away from that, it reinforces the old thinking. We have to develop partnerships where individuals who take care of, work with, love people who use drugs are really going to say, these are the outcome measures that matter to us, these are the outcome measures that motivate us, and these are the outcome measures we want you to collect data on, analyze that data, disaggregate that data by who's in community and see where we're thriving or where we're failing, and then utilize that data in order to make changes. And it's really important that that data is used for good. There are huge privacy concerns because of the history I told you that we have where we punish people. This data needs to be used for good, it needs to be used in privacy methods, and it needs to be not used to re-stereotype and harm people. Utilizing that outcome and creating those outcome measures that are influenced and guided by people who use drugs, then can be used as a way to measure wellness and to hold systems accountable. So outcome-based measures, you have to know what measures you're up against and that you're achieving outcomes for. We need to define those measures, and they don't exist. This is where everyone's like, well, I want to do what Boo Boo's doing, or I want to do what DC's doing. I told you the history. They don't exist. We have to work in partnership to really create them. And we can. It's complex, but we can actually do that. And there's people who are doing that in similar fashion. There's this group called We in the World that is creating community-based and community influence outcome measures that they are then utilizing to work with governments in order to say, are we achieving the wellness that we seek to see? Not just is the hemoglobin A1C better for the diabetes, but are people thriving? Do they have social connectedness? Are they able to get and retain their job that they love? So really looking and thinking differently. The second set of accountability measures is around equity. And I think, we talk a lot about implicit bias, but a lot of this is explicit. This system was explicitly created to harm and keep people out. And then it became implicit as we pretended that that's not what the system was for. And so I think it really behooves us to really think about how we're going to really change and influence these systems to achieve equity. It requires education. It requires self-reflection and humility, but it also requires accountability. When you have the data and say that, oh my gosh, this particular provider is sending all the Black pregnant people who use drugs to jail and child welfare and all the white ones to treatment, that should be an aha moment that we need to work with that provider. And first you provide education, you create a performance improvement plan. But if it doesn't work, they may need to go. Because we actually say we want to achieve equity, we have to create the accountability measures to make that a reality. And the healthcare system in many places are building in these equity measures. And so, and I mention pregnant folks a lot because that's a passion place, pregnant and parenting women who use drugs. But in Pennsylvania, they're actually including in their value-based contracts equity measures to show that they are serious about people having equitable outcomes during this time period. And so I'm going to end with this, and it's a long ending, so beware. But I'm going to end with this. And in this work that we do, I think it's time also to assess the gaps. And the gaps that we see for people who use drugs, and they can tell you what the gaps are. It really requires, and this is something that's really fun at spaces like ETS. ETS isn't just about clinical services, and it's so easy. People really want to focus on clinical services, and they're awesome. And there's another reason they're awesome, because they actually provide methadone, which there's so much stigma about, and people don't like, but it's incredibly life-saving, especially now in fentanyl. So that clinical service conversation is one that needs to be had. But it's also about outreach. When you have history of people treating you horribly, shockingly, you do not trust those systems. I know that's probably but that's what any of us do. And so it requires people to come and meet you where you are and meet you where society decided you would be, and actually take the time to listen, take the time to care, take the time to hear who you are, what services you want and need, and work in partnership for that to happen. And then it is our responsibility in society to make sure those services exist, that they're culturally and linguistically effective, and that they're going to achieve the wellness outcomes that people need and they deserve. And I would say as a basic human right, though I did say that one speech and people said, what if you don't believe in human rights? And I don't have an answer for that. So get back to me on that. But I truly believe that people deserve this. And so with that, I just have this one quote that I ask us all as we think about where to move, what that means. And it's this great quote by this woman named Yaya Gyasi, who wrote a book called Transcendent Kingdom. And I'm just rapidly looking for it. This is what happens when you write your speech on chicken scratch. But what it essentially says is that we need to think differently. And it says progress in the sense of the natural way in which learning something new requires getting rid of something old. Like how discovering the world is round means you can no longer hold on to the idea you may one day fall off the edge of the earth. We need to hold the idea that we're doing something new. We're not going to fall off the earth. We can think differently. We can think about complex items, and we can work in partnership with groups that already had, because they were there to care and to love and to share when the rest of the systems didn't. And so it requires funding, supporting, and working in partnerships with groups like ETS to achieve the goals that we say we want to see, so we can truly work and love one another together. So with that, I'm done.
Dr. Kima Joy Taylor, thank you so much. And it's amazing to have someone at your level in terms of just being nationally respected. Thank you for sharing that with us today. It's so great to have you here in Seattle. Oh yeah, sorry. We're doing a little stage rearrangement here for our next segment, which is a panel discussion. And as we get things adjusted, I'm going to talk about what's next. 3 staff members who are part of ETS's organization-wide leadership team, each one of them focuses on a very different domain of service and has a unique perspective to share. So I'm going to introduce each of them as they get settled up on stage. Me a little over? Okay. So first up, Monica Harris. Monica oversees case management, hospitality. Yep, she's got fans in the room. And engagement in our Renton and Olympia clinics. Her team's mission is to create a welcoming, friendly, therapeutic, and person-centered environment where patients feel like a person instead of a number, and provide resources that support patients in their recovery. So Monica, come on up if you would. Have a seat, grab a mic. Next up, I'd like to invite Ben Garfinkel, is a physician assistant at ETS's Seattle clinic, where he initiates and monitors treatment for patients with opioid use disorder. Using a harm reduction approach, he coordinates care and responds to medical emergencies. In many cases, he may be providing the only health care a patient has received in years. Ben, come on up. It's good to have you. Monica, great to have you here. And finally, Eileen Richard is a lead supervisor in the North Seattle area, including Aurora Avenue. Lead does long-term intensive case management with legally involved clients who are chronically homeless and dealing with substance use disorder and other behavioral health diagnoses. So it's such an honor to have you all here today. So I feel like Phil Donahue, first of all. You kids don't know who Phil Donahue is. Just Google that later. What I love about this part of our program is that you all are boots on the ground. And I'm going to ask the same question of each of you because I think we're going to get very different answers based on where you are meeting people in the community. So the question is, what does meeting people where they are look like for you in your role? And what does it mean to you? So Monica, meeting people where they are, what does it look like for you?
Well, meeting people where they are is basically celebrating them. So this is not a cookie cutter, one size fits all for everyone. We have to celebrate them. So you might have people who are sitting next to you riding the bus or driving down the street, and they look like you, and you never know that they're in treatment or that they've struggled with recovery. And then you have these people who are really struggling. But guess what? I decided not to use for an hour. I really wanted to use right then, but I decided not to. And just to get that, and you have to make a big deal out of it. You have to say, yes, that's great, whatever. And they really just start to embrace that and know that people care about them and their situation and all of that good stuff.
Is there something that we, the public, don't know about the people that you help? What's the biggest misconception?
The biggest misconception is that they forget that we're dealing with the disease of addiction and not diseased people. So.
That's great. Ben, I'd like to go to you for the same question. What does meeting people where they are look like for you in your role?
So for me, I think it's just acknowledging that when people walk through my door. It's just so important for me to get to know them and what they're about and what part of their recovery they're in, because people come to us in a variety of different situations and carrying different things. I have been told by some patients that the last day that they used drugs was the day before they entered treatment, but that is so unbelievably rare because people bring a lot. They bring their childhood trauma, they bring their housing situation, they bring their chronic medical conditions, their conception of time and space, and by which I mean like the ability to get to appointments. And what's so important for me is to form a partnership with that patient to know who they are and what they're about and how I can work with them and form that partnership to help them with all of these different aspects of their life. And I can't necessarily, maybe I could do that alone, but I have the luxury of having a great team. So in addition to working with folks with medication, these evidence-based medication treatment, we have so many amazing folks on our team. We have case managers. I know one case manager, as I was leaving the clinic today, she's in the hospital right now visiting a patient. We have H&E, who puts on a supportive, smiling environment for that patient as they walk in the door. We have folks who can get them in with housing, get them a phone, call them during hours, and hey, remember you have an appointment today. We have acupuncture for folks to help them with withdrawals and help them ease their anxiety. And I'm not the first person folks see when they walk in the door, but I am one of the first, and I see my job is not just coordinating their treatment and tailoring it to them, but also coordinating care with all of the other people in our team to make sure that folks feel valued and cared for and respected. I had the pleasure of meeting Dr. Taylor yesterday, and she talked a lot about I don't know, in a day of agrarian metaphors, there's trees, there's roots, and Dr. Taylor talked about soil and how it's important to look less at apples and more at soil, and making sure that soil is nutrient rich for our patients, and making sure they can soak up as much of that as they possibly can.
Ben, thank you. It's kind of what I'm hearing from you is it's kind of like having a good boss. A good boss has to get to know who you are before they can motivate you to reach your potential, right? So I'm hearing that loud and clear, man. Keep it up. Eileen, let's ask you, what does meeting people where they are look like for you in your role?
That was good. Ben did good.
I had this whole spiel, but now I'm going to sort of change gears a little bit. So I think that, they were kind of talking about when folks are ready to start with Medicaid-assisted treatment. A lot of the people that we work with, and especially that my team works with in North Seattle, they're not even ready for that yet. We're still talking about engagement. We're still talking about just really meeting people where they are and letting people design their own service plan, so to speak. Tell us what their goals are. Everybody's experience is so different and so personal, and I think that that's a really big beauty of being able to work with REACH. We work with people who are legally involved, who struggle with substance use, mental health disorders, and who have been chronically homeless. And as Dr. Taylor said, these are some of the most marginalized people we also, we expanded to North Seattle in particular because we saw a need to work with people who are involved in the sex trade, women who are involved in street-based sex work, and have sometimes never had a case manager. They've never accessed any kind of service other than maybe a drop-in center before. And that may not sound like much, but when you first start working with somebody and they say, well, I don't have an ID and I don't have a phone and I don't have this, it's like, okay, great. That's a great place to start. Let's start with that. We can't even get to the conversation about housing and about recovery support and all those things until those other needs are met first. So when I think about what it means to meet people where they are, I think about harm reduction and moving at the speed of trust. Like, we can't accomplish somebody's goals unless there's trust and respect there. And I guess, the last thing I will sort of say about that is, some of the individuals, especially the women that we work with, they've really touched our souls in so many ways. These folks are surviving in some of the most precarious and horrendous situations, and the barriers to accessing even a shelter are profound. You can't go if you don't have ID. You can't go if you're using. You can't go if you missed your intake time. And even in the midst of that stigma and, just profound difficulty, people are incredibly resilient and incredibly beautiful.
Yeah. So what I think is beautiful about this moment is that you're all here to support this. This is what it does. They're meeting people where they are. And what we just heard is that it's complicated. It's super, super complicated. Every case is very unique and requires a very unique solution. And that solution comes through these people. So please help me in thanking the frontline workers here of ETS for the work that they do. Thank you so much. Nice job. If I was in church, I'd be yelling amen right now. That was good. Okay, so we've heard from staff. Let's take a look at what their work looks like in a closer way. We're going to look at how our REACH team is serving the community in South King County. So take a look at this video.
There's some days that I will climb this hill at least 2 to 3 times. When I check in with someone and they need something from down there and they can't get there, I have to go back, bring whatever they need, and then do them around again. Hello, is anybody home? Billy? I guess he's not home. Hello. It's Alejandra. Hi. How's it going? I'm doing well. I have some mail for you. It's your medical insurance. Mm-hmm. And I know that the nurses were here. Yeah. And they gave you your medication, right? Hey, how's it going? How was the hospital? So I talked to the nurses about you, if you need like a place to stay for a few days so you can recover, and be able to move.
That'd be rather helpful.
Will that help you?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's not like a shelter, it's not housing.
Yeah.
It's just to support you while you recover.
Okay.
Okay?
Sounds great.
Come down and get some food, okay?
Yeah, I will.
All right, we'll see you guys.
Okay.
The couple up there, they've been here for about 7 years. Rolling up the hill, he's been here for like 15 years. They don't want to go down there because the community or other people will just drive by and will throw rocks at them, will yell at them. One of my clients said that someone threw a firework inside her tent and said, "Burn, motherfucker." So, you know, up here it's different. Up here it's more, I think they feel more secure. A couple weeks ago, I was standing there providing clothes, and a guy in a very nice truck, he was driving by, and he turned around and he said, "No wonder why they don't leave. You guys bring them shower and clothes and food." But this person doesn't realize that, you know, unfortunately, we don't have housing, so there's nowhere to go.
People will camp all along here, but they get moved so frequently. The police have recently started doing a targeted enforcement of the downtown core here. And so they're essentially just moving people all day, and makes it pretty hard to find the people that you're looking for to follow up with. You know, you can get a job and everything, but when you're still living on the streets, surrounded by this every day, it's very hard to maintain any sort of sobriety. A lot of folks even become homeless first and then start using because it's so hard out here. So the person I was looking for is already here. That's lovely. So we'll have a couple of these little tents set up, and then tables. We'll put out some donations on the tables out there. It's a pretty fabulous one-stop shop. So we have an actual medical doctor on site. We have nurses here. Christy's a social worker from Health Point. I work for Reach. I'm the harm reduction specialist. We can do things like insurance, Orca cards, all sorts of stuff right here. We have the Health Point staff over there that can do Suboxone. If you're interested, over in that van, we've got the People's Harm Reduction Alliance. And they do a meal right across the street that starts at 5. They do that every Monday. Good food, actually. Highly recommend.
I need an inhaler.
You need an inhaler? We can do that for you. You want to do that?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Here's what I got for you. This big old stack of safety supplies. You've got rigs, a bubble. And you remember how to use Narcan, of course, right? Maybe you'll put the Narcan out next to you before you use the blues in case you're by yourself and somebody comes along and you're turning blue yourself. I really like to work with the folks that most people say they're not ready. They don't want help. Those are the people I like to work with. You can tell me you don't want help, and that's fine. I'm not gonna force you to do things, but I'm here. I'm here to support you how you are. And then eventually those folks will know that they have somebody they can go to when they do wanna make some changes.
I mean, come on, who's the only one that's been helping you? Okay. All right, you guys come and get some food, okay? Before you go to work.
So is the same problem with your leg still bugging you? Well, come check in with us and maybe we can try another round of antibiotics. We're gonna be at Kent Lutheran in about an hour.
And I could take you with the cats so they can get their shots and get their appointments to be fixed. All right, well, here's my car if you need to call me, or else I'm here every Tuesday.
John, what do you think you're gonna use your new phone for?
I knew you were gonna.
Staying in touch with me, right?
So that's the REACH team, meeting people where they are. And I think that Alejandra is here today. Is she here? Can you stand up, please? So right now, I'd like to pass the mic to a dear friend of ETS. Some of you may recognize her if you've been involved with this organization, Hayden Wartiz, who also is back for her 5th year. Hayden came to know ETS through her work at Aurora Commons, which is a partner organization serving many of the same clients experiencing homelessness along North Aurora Avenue. So Hayden, this just in, welcome.
Thanks, Mark. And this just in, Amanda from the video is online. Let's give it up for Amanda so she can hear us. All my tricks under there. So thank you, Dr. Taylor. Thank you, staff that were so kind to come on stage and be in the video to help us really understand the vast nature of what ETS does. Like Mark said, I have been around Aurora Commons, an ETS partner up in North Seattle, so I have had the privilege to see firsthand the deep impact of ETS over the years. One person that comes to mind is my friend Ian, and I first met Ian when I was walking out of the Commons one day, and he had his backpack and his bike, and he came up to me and he was like, "Hey, you look like a good person." He's like, "I'm trying to make some better choices. I need some positive people in my life. Like, what do you think?" Okay. And then he pauses and he writes down his phone number and he's like, "Hey, here's my phone number. Like, maybe you could check in on me." So Ian made quite an impressive first impression with his determination and what's the word I'm thinking of? Determination and kind of wherewithal. And that served him well as, of course, it took over a year with all of the obstacles that come from every direction. But he used that forthrightness and determination to find housing along with his lead case manager. So we celebrate, so much to celebrate. And like Ian, the reality is that none of us can do everything alone. All of us need community and support in some way, including ETS. ETS, for their mission, needs staff to go into the forgotten landscapes of our cities. They need Dr. Taylor's research and community members having conversations at the dinner table to dispel the myths around substance use disorder and homelessness. And ETS needs all of you, all of us present here today. It is my honor to invite you now to give so we can continue growing this incredible impact of ETS, meeting more and more people where they are with support and hope and strengthening connections among our clients, our team, our community partners, and our neighbors. Being in this together is how we make a lasting difference in our community. So because this is a hybrid event, there's a couple instructions. We have a few things going on. So for our Zoom, people joining on Zoom, you were given a purple give card in your packet mailed to you. So on your purple give card is where you will see the text to give information. It's also on page 5 in your program. So you'll also find that in here. Folks on Zoom, if you would, after you text to give, if you would also put your donation in the chat so we can celebrate that donation together. Everyone in the room, I'm excited to lead us in a paddle raise, and I will let you know what that looks like if this is new to you. When you came in the door, you were given a bid number that looks like this. So if we could take a moment, locate your bid number and just hold it up. Get some blood flowing a little more in your body. Yes, I see you. Make sure I can see you. Yes, 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 I see it. Awesome. So we are going to move through giving levels from $10,000 to $50. And the hope is that you will find a giving level that feels right for you, that you resonate with, that maybe feels a bit generous. And I hope we can do this together. So we rely on the energy of the room to keep us going. So let's hear something from you as we start our giving levels. Any kind of claps, whoops, snaps? Yes, okay. So we are starting the giving at $10,000. And rumor has it that friend and supporter Suzanne Hittman is going to kick us off at this level. She's joining virtually, so I will hold up my card in her honor. Feels good. Thank you, Suzanne. I hope you can hear us. Our gratitude. Is there anyone else that can join at $10,000? Woo! Hey! All right. So it's 4 to 5. Thank you so much. Wow. Okay. You see how it goes. You feel the energy. That is incredible. And then there's some awkward pauses along the way in case anyone's still thinking about it. So I'm going to have that bit of a pause as we slowly move on to the $5,000 level, which is next. As you saw in the video, outreach is so important to the work of harm reduction. Many clients have experienced trauma, and so building relationships takes weeks or months, even years, and is best done, as you saw, on their terms and their turf. A gift at this level will help ETS continue our important work of outreach. And so we're starting off at $5,000. We have another, someone we are aware of, Diana, who isn't able to join us today, but her daughter Chloe is here, one of the 4 original Reach staff, who's going to give us Diana's gift. There it is. So at the $5,000 level, 269. Thank you. Hi, Chloe. And then we're going to keep clapping because there might be another. Oh, yes, there is. 416. Thank you. Woo! Amazing. Amazing. Next is the $2,500 level. In ETS's substance use treatment program, staff aim to provide continuous support no matter where people are on their journey. It is through this continuity and trust building, I think Eileen used that concept of trust building, that the magic happens. Many patients are able to find stability and then a steady recovery. At this level, a gift will help continue this important work. So who is in for $2,500? Okay, all right, starting us off, we have 381. Thank you so much. I'm gonna keep going. So I'm asking a bit more time. Okay, $2,500. We're moving on in once, twice, we're moving on. Great, thank you so much. So last year we had a matching challenge at the $1,000 level, which is where we are arriving to now. So last year we had an anonymous donor that said, I will offer a $20,000 match if we could get 20 people to give $1,000. Did we do it? Yes, we did it. So not surprisingly, this donor said, I'll do it again. This time I'm upping the ante, $25,000 match. So we need how many donors? 25. 25. So check in with yourself. I'm gonna give you a moment. Can that be you? Great news is that we have folks that have given before, we have folks online, we have folks in the room, so we're all coming together for this match, trying to get 25, and we're starting with 2 already that have come in. So that's 25 minus 2, 23. So think about it, raise your cards up high. Let's see what we can do. Okay, all right. It's gonna take a minute to say all these numbers, so keep the energy going. 353, thank you. 357, thank you. 317, thank you. 226, thank you. 208, thank you. 210, thank you. 228, thank you, Vincent. 211, thank you. 340, thank you. 225, thank you so much. 206, thank you. 387, thank you. 217, thank you. 229 in the back, thank you. Did I miss someone up here? Okay, we're going 275, thank you. 318, thank you. 429, woo, thank you. 264, thank you. 202, thank you. Woo, okay. Wow, was anyone counting? We're at 21, and that's great because donations continue to come in. There is no pressure, but if you want to get it over with now, we can do that. Okay, that is incredible. Okay, thank you so much. One more round of applause. That was amazing. We are at the $500 level. So much of what ETS does through clinic services and REACH is accompany folks as they navigate complex systems. We heard that up front. I need an ID, I need a phone. There are all these steps on the process. It's a huge undertaking and is so important. So this level continues this important work of accompaniment and things like it. So who's with us at $500? Okay. Woo, 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 woo. 307, thank you. 292, thank you. 281, thank you. 209, thank you. 413, thank you. 404, thank you. 231, thank you. 205, thank you. 335, thank you. 237, thank you. Woo! Y'all are doing great. Keeping the applause going as we're reading all of those numbers, so many of them. You may have noticed monthly flags on your table. So these are, add a bit more anticipation. For the last 3 levels, you'll raise a monthly flag if you would like your donation to become monthly. You can imagine the importance of this knowledge that the funding is consistently arriving in this time when things are ever shifting. So consider making a monthly gift. We can't wait to see who is our first. You see that people will be very excited if it's you. So who is in at $250 or $250 monthly? Okay, all right, yes, woo! I'm gonna start over here this time. 394, thank you. 368, thank you. 400, thank you. 324, keep it going for the 250s. 419, thank you. 385, thank you. 337, thank you. 397, thank you. 358, thank you. 227, thank you. 344, thank you. We still got another half of the room to go. 267, thank you. 367, thank you. 406, thank you so much. 278, thank you. 304, thank you. 207, thank you. All right, incredible. Incredible. We are at the $100 level. We're just going to go for it. Raise the paddles. How many can we get? We still don't have a monthly if you want to really be celebrated. Woo! Okay, we got to keep the energy going. There's a lot of numbers, but we can do this. Okay. Woo! At the $100 level, 263. Thank you. 280. Thank you. 293. Thank you. 378. Thank you. 379. Thank you. 270. Thank you. 244. Thank you. 226. Thank you. 262. Thank you. 422. Thank you. 320. Thank you. 314. Thank you. 359. Thank you. 239. Thank you. 232. Thank you. 234. Thank you. 242. Thank you. 310. Thank you. 402. Thank you. Up in the front, 414. Thank you. 339. Thank you. We're almost there. 395. Thank you. This is incredible. 285. Thank you. 346. Thank you. I don't think I've read this many numbers before. 405. Thank you. 212 in the back. Thank you. 396. Thank you. 201. Thank you so much. 327. Thank you. 250. Thank you so much. Unreal. Unreal. You all are amazing. So our final level, $50. If you haven't raised your paddle, maybe you can now. If you've already raised your paddle, we can do simple addition, add it to your other gifts. So we're finishing $50. 377, thank you. 257, thank you. 291, thank you. 314, thank you. 432, thank you. 408, thank you. 351, thank you. 427, thank you. 399, thank you. 343, thank you. 315, thank you. 436, thank you. 365, thank you. 212, thank you. 297, thank you. 298, thank you so much. I think I got you. I think we're good. 343 just in case, and 399. Incredible. Woo! Like Monica said, we all deserve to be celebrated. You all deserve to be celebrated so much. The power of this community is incredible. A round of applause for you. And I am so grateful to invite up Steve to close us out.
I told you Hayden was high energy. Hayden, thank you so much, and thanks everybody. Steve has asked me to wrap things up. First of all, thank you so much for coming out today and giving us your time, giving us your resources. Thanks to those of you on Zoom for tuning in today. Thank you. This organization is so inspiring. These people do what we wish we had time and abilities to do. We can support them through our money. And so, also, I just want to draw attention. Look at your tables. There are postcards with a stamp on the back. There's a QR code on the card that lets you send a story of recovery. So this is the work that's changing the community. So our final ask of you today, take this postcard with you and send it to someone who would benefit from hearing a story of hope, a story of recovery. If you have their address handy, we have a mailbox at the back of the room there, so just address it, drop it in there, and it'll get to them. If you'd like to take it home and address it there, that's awesome. And if you'd like to just take the postcard and put it on your fridge as a bit of inspiration, that's cool too. We're going to be sending out some other information later. So I know that a lot of you need to dash back out to work, but if you don't have to dash immediately back to work, there's a courtyard right out here, and we would love to invite you to stay, have some beverages, talk with Dr. Taylor. She's going to stick around as well as the staff of ETS. And also look for an email from Tavia on Monday with the fundraising totals. This has been such an honor to be with all of you today. Thank you. I hope to see you next year. Have a great rest of your day and week, and thank you so much for supporting ETS. Thank you.